Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, what is up? What is good? The king. Yeah, the king of lightning here today, bringing you guys and gals One Piece. Whoa. Today, to One Piece chapter 880 and 881 review. An actual legitimate review of these two chapters. Now, I know it's been some time, quite some time, since I've done a review of the One Piece chapter, and to the point where a lot of folks think that my live reactions are my reviews, but they're not. Haven't done a review in a while, so I do apologize for that. But here we are with a double chapter review of 880 and 881. I will be sure to be more on point when it comes to the reviews, because we do have things to talk about when it comes to abilities, when it comes to potential roles in the crew, when it comes to the overall story for this arc, and so on and so forth. So without further ado, I'm going to dive headfirst into this review of these two chapters, but I do want to say this. I'm gonna do it differently, where instead of bring up into two chapters, so one segment is 880 and the other segment is 881, what I'm gonna do is that for each of the parts of my review, for pacing, for story, and for character, I'm gonna do first 880, then 881. Then we'll go on to story with 880 and 881. And that's how I'm gonna do this review and see how it works. So that all being said, let us dive headfirst with the pacing of chapter 880. Now for this chapter, the pacing and the structure is basically three parts. It starts off with Sanji, Pudding, and Chiffon at Chocolate Town of Cacao Island, and basically they are preparing the cake, getting ready, because all hope resides on them to make sure that the cake is on point so it satisfies Big Mom, because Big Mom is displaying some ferocious power right now. Oh, she's devastating, but we'll get to that real soon. We will get to that real soon. Number two for pacing of this chapter is we go back to the mirror world, where we see Luffy and Katakuri and how that's shaping up, and basically Luffy is getting decimated because my main man, Charlie Katakuri, is just too good. Way too good. You do have some of the Big Mom pirates that are trying to get into the ship, and Luffy is now trying to stop them, but then that goes its own way. Then part number three for the chapter is we then go over to Nami and company after communication has been established between Luffy and Nami and company. And Nami lets Luffy know, hey, we got a big problem and it's coming in fast and hard, and Big Mom is riding on top of it. So that is the pacing for the chapter. Again, very simple, very straightforward. All in all, three parts, I would say pacing was okay. Now when it comes to the pacing of chapter 881, it has three parts as well, but the third part is where things are different compared to the previous chapter's pacing. And number one for pacing is real time with Nami and company and how they're facing down Big Ooh, Mama Ooh, riding the waves. We are riders on a mission, action, and how they are able to escape this scenario, which is pretty cool in of itself. That's number one for pacing of chapter 881. Number two is kind of minor, but not really minor, because it ties into number three for the pacing. So the pacing gets weird here, because we go back to the mirror world clearly, and it's Luffy trying to get in touch with Nami and company, which he does succeed in doing. And then part three is that we go back and forth between real time with the ship and Luffy in the mirror world. So when it comes to a pacing standpoint, it's a bit less straightforward than the previous chapter, but it does make perfect sense nonetheless. So part two is its own thing clearly, because we do shift major locations to the mirror world halfway into the chapter after the tidal wave hits. However, we then go back and forth between the mirror world and real time with Nami and company, and how they survive the attack and so on and so forth. Pacing overall for chapter 881, I would lean more towards an OK plus for the pacing of chapter 881 as opposed to an OK or subpar plus. So when it comes to pacing, I would say the 881's pacing is a bit better than the previous chapter's pacing. So that's pacing overall when it comes to those two chapters. Now, when it comes to the story, now we get on to some meat when it comes to this review. Whoa, Big Ooh. But before we get to Big Ooh, Mom Ooh, we gotta talk about Sanji and company. Now, when it comes to the story progression for these chapters, in general, they are arc-based. There's nothing really relevant to the overall story of One Piece. They are predominantly arc-based when it comes to these two chapters. So first and foremost, when it comes to chapter 880 for story progression, the first thing here is Pudding. And Pudding, she has the honest to earnest love and the trust of the people of Chocolate Town of Cacao Island, which may play a bigger role later on, may play a bigger role later on in this arc, but it is clearly established that the people of this town love Pudding. It was stated before that she was supposed to be the new mayor, I believe, of the town, but she rejected it because in her mind, Lola was always the mayor of Chocolate Town. That being said, you can see where she's telling people, believe in me, don't come into the factory, we need to make this cake to stop Mama and that kind of stuff, and they're all about it, like they're all for it. Number two, the 31 chefs from Whole Cake Island that are now at Chocolate Town, they've had their memories altered of the wedding by Pudding before they could start cooperating with them in order to make the cake. And the reasons why are very obvious. Will this play a role later on in the arc? Probably not, because these chefs are only relevant for the baking of this cake and feeding it to Big Mom. But nonetheless, it is still a component of the story. Part 3 for the story progression of chapter 880 is, I think, fairly big because it is potentially the thing that's going to bring down Big Mom. Bring her down. Big Mom, who's been just dominant for the entire arc thus far, it could bring her down. And honestly, it will. And this is the cake. Now, according to Sanji, Chiffon and Pudding need to bake the cake and temper the chocolate, whatever that means. I guess melt the chocolate, make sure it's good. Yeah, I'm not a chef. I'm not Gordon Ramsay. I can cook, but I'm not phenomenal. I just cook basic stuff, okay? That being said, that has to be done within a 2-hour and 40-minute window. After that point in time, Sanji is going to perform this secret step via the true essence of sweetness, the quote-unquote true essence of sweetness, which will bring Big Mom into complete bliss. Again, I would not like to see a Soma-type scene with Big Mom. Very few cats would enjoy that scene. But I digress. What Sanji is talking about there may and probably does tie to the Okama cooking that he's learned during his 2-year time skip. So he's learned a lot of things, and the last time I remember seeing something of substance that he's learned cooking-wise from that 2-year time skip was after Punk Hazard. So this cooking has amazing effects. Sanji learning this true essence of sweetness thing from them is probably going to be the key to pleasing Big Mom and potentially make her go unconscious. Potentially. Because I don't see Big Mom forgiving them for their crimes. I really don't. And the only way to make sure that Big Mom is out of the picture and they can escape in earnest is if she's knocked out. Now, number 4 is after this 2-hour and 40-minute window, in 3 hours, they're going to take the cake and they're going to put it on a ship. And then they're going to meet at the location that they're going to meet Nami and company on the ship. And while they're traveling to this meeting spot, they're going to decorate the cake and they're going to let the cake cool. So it's a big rush job, but they have no other choice because time is of the essence here. Even though it's like a 10-hour window, Big Mom ain't going to stop. She has stamina for days, quite literally days, if not weeks, if not months. She has a lot of stamina and a lot of power. So all hope rides on Sanji and company to make sure that Big Mom is well fed. Now, part 5 of the story is we should go back to the mirror world. After Katakuri wakes up Brûlé and company, they try once again to infiltrate the ship, but Luffy tries to stop them. He fails in doing so because Katakuri's right there. But in the process, he sees the mirror that he broke previously to Nami's room. He grabs a piece of that, and now he has established communications with Nami and company. And then the last part of the story is Nami and company, they're talking to Luffy, and as cannon fires upon them, in comes the big one. Like, quite literally, the big one, the big kahuna. And Big Mom ready to slam it down with this sea dude. We will get to that later, I guarantee. Oh, Whitebeard would be proud. It was a very shocking end to chapter 880 when that wave was just, and you see the face, and then you see just Big Mom like, yeah. Big Mom is indeed a stunning woman. And that is it for the story progression for chapter 880. In total, that was 6 parts. Now, for chapter 881, it has 4 parts in total, so it has less from a story standpoint. And I would say even from a substance standpoint, it has less as well compared to the previous chapter. So the first part for the story progression of 881 is going to be Big Mom, Big Oo. I love it, man. I love it when the wave was, it was phenomenal. So, Big Oo, Mamu, slamming it down with the wave. But Jinbei, you must be swift as a coursing river. This dude, Jinbei, he orders the sails to be wrapped up except for like the main sail. Then he goes into the tidal wave and then he rides the green room. The green room is the opening in the middle of the wave that you can ride. And Jinbei, he rides that with the ship. This reveals a certain characteristic trait about Jinbei, but of course we'll get to that in the character segment. But that's what Jinbei does to save their bottoms. Very impressive on Jinbei's part. Very impressive. Now, part 2 for the story. This is actually very crucial. Now, it appears that Big Mom and Pero Sparrow, they are not aware that Luffy and company had survived the tidal wave. Pero Sparrow tells Katakuri and company in the mirror world that him and Big Mom had just taken out the ship and Nami and company with that tidal wave. He does not know that Jinbei, he pulled some amazing swift as a coursing river movements and they were able to survive the tidal wave. So that means that Nami and company are now off the radar. Granted, Katakuri may tell them, hey dude, you failed. They're still alive. But he hasn't done so yet. So for the time being, they are off the radar of Big Mom and Pero Sparrow and the rest of the Big Mom pirates. That is lucky. Number 3, Nami does what she's ordered to do by Luffy, and she destroys all the mirrors on the ship, knowing full well that Luffy can't come back. Yes, they cannot be invaded now by the Big Mom pirates, but Luffy himself can now no longer come back as well to the ship. And number 4 for the story, as Luffy is talking to Nami and company, Katakuri, he ain't stopping. This guy is playing kickball, and he's playing kickball well, but he's a pro at it. All you see is nothing but kicks from Katakuri. Lovely, honestly. So all the while, Luffy has to kind of hide the mirror from Katakuri. He does so by keeping it in his mouth. It breaks in his mouth, which is pretty vicious, honestly. Like imagine that. Imagine a mirror, a piece of a mirror just breaking in your mouth like that. The damage it causes to your tongue, to your teeth, to your gums. I mean, that's heavy stuff. But Luffy, he does it nonetheless. So when Katakuri has a pause in his assault, he spits out the piece of the mirror so he can reassure Nami and company that he's gonna be okay. And actually he's kind of getting bored, so they should hurry up. They're reinvigorated and they're all positive. Jinbei knows better though. Jinbei knows a lot better. And Katakuri tells him, are you sure you want those to be your last word? I will not give in. That is it when it comes to the story progression. Once again, you have those 4 parts. Even though it doesn't have as many parts, there's still substance to those parts. The 2 main things for substance are Pero Sparrow and Big Mom not knowing that they failed to take out Nami and company, and then on top of that, Luffy reassuring Nami and company that he'll be okay. Among those things, I would say that the most important one is number 2, clearly, because Pero Sparrow and Big Mom not knowing gives them a huge window of time without the pressure of Big Mom hunting them down, which is a big thing. The other part of the story where it's Luffy reassuring them is big as well, but I wouldn't say it's nearly as big for the overall arc itself. And in the previous chapter, you have pretty big things for the overall arc when it pertains to Sanji and company, because that's how they're gonna stop Big Mom. All this stuff is temporary. They're all waiting for Sanji and company to bake the cake so they can satisfy the tummy of Big Mom. And that is quite a lethal and big tummy. What we're seeing now for the story progression is all temporary measures. The main thing here is to get that cake cooked and done. So what Luffy did is excellent for the time being to remotivate the crew, but Katakuri is still on him. Katakuri is still in Terminator mode. He's not stopped. And this may lead to a certain outcome when it comes to Luffy versus Katakuri, because Luffy right now, as far as I can understand, cannot beat Katakuri. He just can't do it. Even in Gear 4, it makes no sense for Luffy, who couldn't beat Cracker, to then beat Katakuri, who is the strongest of the Sweet Commanders. Makes no sense. However, something may happen, and I'll get to that in another video. So when it comes to story progression, I would say that chapter 880 is very good on that. And when it comes to 881, it's also good as well, but not as good as the previous chapter. And now finally we get on to the character segment of this chapter review, the final segment of the chapter review, and the part I want to spend most of my time talking about here. And I'm also going to show you guys something as well, because I think Katakuri may have shown something very impressive that wasn't really a big deal because it was a small panel, but I think we have to keep our eyes out for this. And number one for chapter 880 is, I think, a very cool thing to know about Sanji, because it's a very Toriko thing to know about Sanji. When you do something like that, 2 thumbs up from me, definitely. So Sanji is able to perceive what ingredients comprise a dish via smell and smell alone. That I thought was impressive because A, it shows you just how skilled of a chef he is, and B, this may be pushing it, but I believe that to a certain extent, all senses can be enhanced and are enhanced by Kenboshin Haki. The main example here I would point to would be Usopp, where Usopp's eyesight clearly was enhanced, where he saw the auras in that moment when he took out Sugar. So in Sanji's case, yes, he's an amazing chef, to the point where him smelling a dish, he knows what the dish's ingredients are. However, because he also knows the secret ingredients, that's like a step above. He knows even the secret ingredients and how they are incorporated into the dish just by smell and smell alone. And that, I think, could be a result of Kenboshin Haki, because that is his affinity for Haki. So that's number one. Your thoughts on that? I'm curious to read, but that's what I think could be the case. Could be the case. And number two for the character section for chapter 880 is we have 2 introductions of the Charlotte family. We have the 34th son of the Charlotte family, Mascarpone, and then we have the 29th daughter of the Charlotte family, Jos Carpone, something of that sort. So you have those 2 characters that were introduced. They are part of the Long Neck, the Snake Neck, the Littlefoot clan. When it comes to character part 3, we have Katakuri. Now, Katakuri, as he is basically punishing Luffy, he tells Luffy, why don't you get your filthy hands off of my family, off of my brothers and my sisters. Luffy, he yells that at Mascarpone and Jos Carpone when they have the mirror and they're going to attack Nami and company. However, truth be told, even though it was the Big Mom pirates that started the whole thing with Germa and with Sanji, and they expected nothing to happen, people have passed away on both sides. Pedro passed away on Luffy and company side, and on the Charlotte family side, you have many that are heavily injured like Cracker, and even Opera passed away. Albeit that was a result of Big Mom, but Big Mom wouldn't have been in that state in the first place if Luffy and company and Capone and company hadn't have done what they had done. So yes, does the fault initially lie on the Big Mom pirates for starting the whole thing? Absolutely. But you can kind of see that Katakuri, he feels some pain for the injuries and the loss that his family has suffered. So Katakuri is showcasing some sympathy and empathy for his brothers and sisters, given the situation where his eldest brother lost his arm, where Cracker was decimated, where Opera was taken out. It's those type of things where he's starting to really get frustrated and annoyed by the whole situation. Even more so done by a young buck like Luffy and someone else on their side, Capone, who betrayed them. And number 4, the last component for character for chapter 880, Big Ooh, Mom Ooh, displaying, once again, phenomenal feats of power. And in this case, what we see here is a water homie. And this water homie, because you can see the face and everything in the wave. And some folks did think initially that it was the Candy Sea Slug that was creating the tidal wave. But the Candy Sea Slug is just a platform for Big Mom to stand on. It's the actual face that we see in the wave that indicates that this is a homie of some type. Now, whether or not, very important here, whether or not it is a regular homie or Big Mom's soul-infused homie like Napoleon, Prometheus, and Zeus is not clarified. I would lean more towards a regular homie. It's kind of crazy how a regular homie can create a wave like that, but there's 2 reasons why. Number 1, that probably would have been mentioned already by Big Mom and company, that there was another soul-infused homie that Big Mom had at her disposal. And number 2, because Big Mom is a Devil Fruit user, I don't think her soul would work on the water like that. If it was a regular person who was not a Devil Fruit user, then their soul would not be cursed by the goddess of the sea, or like the sea itself. What whatever the devil fruits have when it comes to the curse with the water. They wouldn't be cursed. Even though the soul itself was taken out via devil fruit powers, the soul, the core of the soul, is still pure in the eyes of the sea. She's able to manipulate the waters via manipulating a sea homie, a water-based wave sea homie. And it results in that epic double page spread of just the wave. And it's like, yo, Big Mom, how is that happening? Well, that's probably how it's happening. Once again, it's probably the soul, or maybe the souls, plural, I'm not too sure. But it's probably the soul of a very powerful regular person who was not a devil fruit user, therefore not cursed by the sea, therefore water can be manipulated by a devil fruit user. Like, you know about the whole water, no me, the Mizu, no me theories? Is there a water fruit out there? Well, Big Mom, she doesn't need that. She has the homies that serve her, and one of them can manipulate water. Maybe several. It is haunting how powerful she is in her own territory, because that is probably a territorial thing. I don't know if the homies can go outside of Tallland like that. I'm not too sure. But in her territory, at the very least, she has massive power with that sea guy there. Massive power. She could probably sink islands just... Oh, God. All right, so that's Big Mom for you, right? So when it comes to the character component of this chapter, I would say it was strong. I would say it was definitely like a good plus to great. I think it was very strong. And mainly because of A, the Katakuri thing, B, the Big Mom thing. Now, for the last component of this chapter review, the character component for chapter 881. This has 4 parts as well, but it's 4 parts kind of, and I'll explain real soon. So, first and foremost, Jinbei, first son of the sea, being a fantastic helmsman. Now, when Jinbei displayed his ability to control the ship the way he did, go into the green room, surf the waves, rocket power that, stunning, and he even says, this ship is amazing, we have a fantastic navigator, and with a great helmsman, this ship is invincible. Jinbei, if he does join the crew, has a role, a legitimate role, not like swordsman, a legitimate role in the crew. Helmsman. That shocked me. That caught me off guard. Number 2, this is the one here. This is the one, but it's a maybe. That's why I said kind of 4. It's more like 3.5 or 3, because I can't really clarify if this is actually the case or not, but it could very well be the case, and it's stunning if it is the case, but we don't know. Katakuri in chapter 881 may have used Awakening. What do you mean? Well, what I mean here is this. Before he kicked Luffy initially, Mochi appeared. You know what? Let me just show you guys. So here we have the official Viz release of the chapter. You guys can, of course, subscribe to that if you want to on the Viz website, which I am a member of, obviously. Here we have the moment where you have Luffy running and he's talking to Nami and company. Now, out comes my main man, Charlie Katakuri, and he stops Luffy in his tracks right here. He stops him. However, this I found to be extremely fascinating, and it was very reminiscent of what Flamingo did. When you look at his feet right here, there are no tracks that lead to that location. We don't see his hands, but as far as I can tell, this patch of mochi right here, underneath Luffy, is completely isolated from Katakuri's main body, from Katakuri himself. What does that mean? That means that either A, he kind of threw some mochi thing at Luffy and then hit the ground, then it expanded or something, but we don't see that. And considering how it's like a large section of the floor, he'd have to throw something fairly big, and we don't see that at all. All we see is Katakuri just staring. We see him staring, and then next thing we see is Luffy getting caught. B, which I'm leaning more towards, because Katakuri being as skilled as he is, him being in Awakened Paramecia, An awakened paramecia with Logia, I mean, just broken, absolutely broken. Him being an awakened paramecia with Logia attributes would probably be a thing. He turned the floor of the mirror world right there into mochi. He's changing the structure of the floor into mochi. Just how Flamingo changed the structure of the buildings to be strings. That is an awakened ability. Let me zoom in even further. Can we go in deeper? Can we go in deeper? I know we can. Yeah, let's go deeper. Look at that. We don't see any tracks of mochi from his feet going towards where Luffy is. We don't see him throw anything. All we see from Katakuri is he's staring there and then boom. And if we zoom out again to see this page right here on the right, all we see is Nami talking to Luffy and company, but again, isolated. Its own patch of mochi. How that happened. The only way that happened, aside from him throwing something at Luffy and then it expanding, which we don't see, is if he turned the floor of the mirror world in that area into mochi. That is an awakening. It is nowhere near confirmed. It is nowhere near confirmed. Let's continue with the chapter review. Let me know your thoughts on that, obviously, because you know where I stand with that. Yeah, I think Oda showcased some of Katakuri's awakening. I really do. Or it was a mistake on Oda's part. I don't know. But that's what I'm seeing right now. I'm seeing awakened paramecia. Now, part 3 for character is once again my main man Katakuri. This one is far more concrete. Because Katakuri, at the end of the chapter, formed the trident from his body. Now, either it was within his body or he created out of mochi. I'm gonna lean more towards the former, where he had his trident within his own body. That is a very Caribou thing. But he's not the swamp Logia. He's the mochi paramecia dude. Like, I don't... Oh, God, no! Oh, my main man! I love this dude. Potentially, I'm going to assume that, again, the trident that we see is not from that emoji. We see his hand kind of like melt away. His arm melt away. And from that, we see the trident come. He stored the trident in its own body. Very similar to what Caribou can do with his swamp no mi. So another sprinkle of character for Katakuri. Just another amazing fun fact. Oh, hey, I can do this too. Yeah. Anything you can do, I can do better. Also applies to Caribou. That is part 3, and part 4 is Luffy, and basically for Luffy, some more reinforcement of his willpower, where his actions of taking the mirror, putting it in his mouth, it broke apart in his mouth, but he's still holding it in there, and he's taking the blows from Katakuri, and so on and so forth, and then he spits up the pieces just to tell his friends, don't worry, I'm okay. In fact, I'm pretty bored, so hurry up. That just shows you the willpower that he has to reassure his friends while under immense pressure from someone like Charlotte Katakuri. So that is the willpower of Luffy once again be reinforced. And that is it when it comes to the character component of this chapter. And overall, that is the review. I would say for character, chapter 880 is still better than chapter 881. I would say definitely. Because number 1, the Katakuri awakening thing, again, nowhere near confirmed, but that's what I'm seeing. And number 2, the last part of a character in 881 is more reinforcement of Luffy's willpower. So in the chapter, it's like a big focus, but in the overall scheme of the story, it's not really a big deal because we've seen it before. He lost years of his life, and he was able to survive that because of willpower and willpower alone. The guy has Hashoku no Haki, and that in of itself is willpower. The dude has phenomenal willpower. What we see in this chapter is just more fortification of that. When it comes to character, 880 is still better than 881. And that being said, when it comes to the overall chapter rating, I'm going to say that chapter 880 is going to be a good to good plus, which ultimately is a 7.25 out of 10. And chapter 881 is going to be an okay plus to good, which is going to be a 6.75 out of 10. And that's it. I am done. So I'm going to see you cats later. Once again, we are back with the One Piece chapter reviews, like the actual official reviews of the chapters. And of course, as usual, be sure to rate the video. It is not that hard to do. I guarantee you that, because I know that you all have a device called Zamaosu, and you use Zamaosu to click, rate the video, to click, subscribe, to click on that bell to join the squad, and of course, comment. Please do comment in the comment section down below. I want to hear your thoughts on what's going down with Katakuri possibly being awakened. Peace and have a nice goddamn day.